Hi, Richard Rawlings here. I'm sure you know, or at least you've heard of the power of goal setting. In this video, I'm going to show you how goal setting works, why it works, and it's not the exact science you need to pay attention to, but a useful way of looking at goal setting that'll help you to be motivated by your goals instead of feeling like goals are a burden that you need to suffer for. Famous figures throughout history have attributed their success to setting themselves on a path and following it. None of them started out successful. Nobody does, of course. They might start out rich, but only by setting goals can you be successful. A quote I like from J.C. Penney is, "Give me a stock clerk with a goal and I'll give you a man who will make history. Give me a man who has no goals and I'll give you a stock clerk." Success is something you define for yourself, and if you don't define what success is to you, you can never be successful by definition. But often people try to set goals, and then for one reason or another, they fail at them, and then they give up setting goals forever. At least they give up formally writing them down and refining them, though I believe that all people are goal-oriented in one way or another. But there's a way to set goals that constantly energize you and make them a tool instead of a burden you feel like you have to work hard at. When you set goals the right way, you'll be working hard, but it won't exactly feel like work. And just to make it clear, I don't mean that you should become some kind of goal-setting robot, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. If you want a checklist to setting big, seemingly impossible goals that become a tool to motivate you instead of a burden or a guilt trip, you can download a 6-step checklist guide that I've prepared for you at this link here. It's downloadable for Mac, PC, iPhone, Android, and Amazon Kindle. But before you grab it, I'm going to show you how goal setting works. Now, do you ever wonder how putting something down on a page could help make it come true? Well, here's what the science says about how goal setting works. Everything you've ever done has started out as a thought in your head, right? Then it was crystallized into some kind of goal, and then you were able to figure out how to act on it. Writing thoughts down allows you to crystallize exactly what you want and to organize your thoughts. Experts estimate that we have thousands of separate thoughts every hour. There's a flurry of information buzzing around in your head, and unless you focus it and make it specific, you won't be able to take any action towards any thought. When you have it on paper, you can rewrite it continually and refine it, and that helps you to figure out what you really want, and it helps you to figure out what you actually need to do to get what you want. So when you know specifically what you want, your mind automatically looks for ways to accomplish it. The way this works is setting a goal allows your mind to filter your reality in a way that moves you closer and closer to your goal. You might have heard of the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, and that's when you hear an obscure piece of news, and then later on it seems like you hear it everywhere. It's probably happened to you before. You know, that's so weird, I was just thinking about that yesterday. Or when you're thinking about buying a certain car or something like that, and you suddenly see it everywhere you go. The news and the car didn't suddenly multiply in the world. They were always there. Your mind simply noticed and remembered them this time because you were thinking about it. The only reason this happens is because our minds are usually relentlessly filtering out information in our reality. There's just so much information out there, we can only focus on what's relevant to us. When we see something that's relevant, we notice it and we remember it. When something isn't relevant, we don't notice it and we don't remember it, so it's like it wasn't there at all. This is the general mechanism behind goal setting. When you choose a specific goal and make it relevant to you, your mind starts gathering information about it so you can achieve it, and it seems like you almost automatically move towards it if your goal is specific enough. This is also how the law of attraction works, except it's a little bit more scientific and practical. And it almost seems like magic, but it really isn't. Another thing that the law of attraction doesn't take into consideration is putting what you want into action. You actually need to figure out the actions to take towards your goals and then make habits out of them. I'll show you how to do that in other videos in this series about goal setting. So now you know the principle behind goal setting and why it makes sense to set goals in the first place. However, as I said, goal setting can sometimes feel stale and robotic. When you set goals constantly that have little meaning to you, you start to feel like you're just getting things done for the sake of getting things done. Now, I like to study productivity and experiment with how I can have a fuller and more fulfilling life. I think that's important. So I know that feeling like a goal-setting robot is a common trap you can fall into. It's also a common misconception about goal setting, of course. Many people don't realize that goals can be used for living a better life in general and not just for accomplishing more or getting ahead in business or something like that, right? The key is to set goals that motivate you constantly and goals that provide a fantastic experience in your everyday life. That's what's important. If you're pursuing a goal that isn't meaningful, you're wasting your time. And if you're pursuing a goal that makes your everyday life terrible, you're wasting your time as well, even if the end goal might be satisfying. Now, to learn how to create big goals that pull you towards results by providing motivation, instead of goals that you typically need to push and strain to put in effort to achieve, I prepared a full guide for you with a 6-step checklist process that I use myself. It'll help you to get out of the cycle of setting goals and failing to achieve them, then losing morale and moving on to something else. Instead, you'll figure out how to set goals that are almost impossible to fail at and provide motivation and focus. Now, I know that sounds a little too fantastic, maybe a little too good to be true, but you'll see how it works soon. These goals can also be designed to make the journey towards your goals better, which I think is the most important part, because 99% of your life is spent in the pursuit rather than in the result. It's based on, all this stuff is based on the studies of prolific people, as well as the science of motivation and productivity, and my own experience, of course, going from somebody who was really lazy, who couldn't get much of anything done, to somebody who writes books and courses and is building a business. So you can grab the checklist now by clicking the link in the description, and you can check out my library of other guides all about my in-depth experiments with forming good habits to live a fuller, more fulfilling life. The links are in the description as well. So I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, hit subscribe to get more like this and hit thumbs up as well. And thanks, and talk to you soon.